Right, let's try to get you more reaction on what's actually taking place in KZN. Bring in the Road Freight Association CEO, Gavin Kelly, who joins us via our telephone line. And Gavin, if you are able to hear me, perhaps let me get a sense of how your association has been affected by what's taking place in KZN.
Good morning, Ayanda, and good morning to all your listeners. I think it's a terrible state of affairs that we're in, as I'm sure that you will have reported, and a lot of your listeners and your viewers would have seen happening on their screens over the last 24 hours. The violence being perpetrated against everybody in the country is unacceptable, and against the road freight logistic arm of the country, it's just being terrible. We haven't seen this sort of level of violence for a long, long time, and you would have seen pictures of vehicles being indiscriminately stopped and burnt. It has really created havoc, and right now as an industry we are discussing whether we should continue to deliver goods across the country or whether we should withdraw and sit back in our depots and wait until the government has this under control.
And there's no telling what impact that will have on our economy. Perhaps we'll speak about that in a moment. Do you know, as a matter of fact, how many trucks have been affected? Has that information become available to you yet?
When you say how many trucks have been affected, you mean how many trucks have been damaged or burnt?
Sure, yes.
Yeah, okay. So, 12 hours ago, we knew of at least 8 that had been burnt in the KZN area. I think that figure has now risen to about 18 that have been either seriously damaged or burnt out or have had damage. So, and it's happening all around on the N2, the N3, all around the KZN area. And there are a number of vehicles, obviously, who've now been stopped who are waiting at certain places. So the whole logistics chain is now grinding to a halt in KZN.
Sure. The obvious concern is around the safety of your truck drivers. How many of them have been affected by this? And, of course, you must be thinking about how you can keep them safe during this time.
Well, obviously, immediately we know there'd be at least 15 drivers, and there would probably be loaders and packers with them in those vehicles who've been affected. We haven't had reports of any drivers being killed right now. Thank goodness for that. We are so happy that none of the drivers have been burnt or targeted as has happened in the past. It's just their vehicles. Let alone that, obviously, there are a lot of drivers and a lot of employees who are very scared of performing their work, of going out anywhere, especially at night, because that's when the attacks have peaked. So that's really cause for concern as our employees. We don't want them to get caught up in between something that they're really innocent in.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing situation. In fact, we don't even know if the violence itself is done for the day ahead. But have you come anywhere near quantifying the cost here, the loss insofar as things like equipment and possibly stock?
Well, it's a difficult call to make because it depends on what type of vehicle you have and obviously what you're transporting. As soon as you're transporting anything of a high value, obviously the cost will go up. So you could have, vehicles that are just vehicles themselves that are burnt, and I use the term just. That's still a lot of money. That's still a good R1 million, just the vehicle itself. And of course, quite often that company that loses that vehicle then suddenly finds itself in even tighter economic conditions because it now loses a vehicle. And smaller companies, our SMMEs out there that get hit, they're the guys who struggle to recover if they ever recover at all. The bigger companies might have extra vehicles around in cases where there's a breakdown, but that doesn't mean they're immune to this. The cost of insurance goes up. We've seen that over the last 3 years, especially around the whole foreign driver issue, that insurances are starting to increase those premiums. That means that there's extra costs in terms of moving goods, there's extra security. So what happens at the end of the day is that the whole chain starts to become more and more expensive. And for all of the goods that are going through the country, the foreigners are finding other ways of moving the goods. They're going through Namibia, they're going through Angola or Mozambique. So really it's having a huge impact on the economy. And of course, every time somebody loses his truck or his work, that's the loss of support to family. So that's really, really, really a difficult figure. When you go to the top end of the scale and you've got those high-value goods, then suddenly you can be losing 3-4 million rands worth at a time, including both the vehicle and the goods.
Sure. Among the long list of concerns is that police are actually struggling to quell the unrest. As mentioned, we're not even quite sure how the day ahead will progress. Given all of that, what becomes the plan on your end for the next 24 hours? Continue sending trucks to KZN?
Well, that's a very good question, and that's exactly what we're sitting down to discuss now. There are a number of calls to stop transporting, to keep our drivers and our employees safe, and of course the goods safe in their depots. So we'll only know in about 5 hours' time whether we're going to start something like that. But at this stage, it really is critical, and a lot of vehicles are standing at depots around the country.
Gavin Kelly, let me thank you for your time. Really appreciate your sharing with us what you can.